Hey Michigan Foodies and beyond, Michigan Food Guy here, bringing you behind the scenes of Michigan's food scene. Today we are in our Henny Penny Test Kitchen with world famous chef Frank Honings, who came all the way from Europe to show up some of the favorite dishes found right here in the Mitten State. Chef Frank, what are we going to be featuring today in our Henny Penny Test Kitchen?
Well, I heard that here in Michigan, pasties is a very famous dish, so that's what I want to try to make today.
Awesome, let's get started.
Yeah, perfect. We're going to make a pasty today with pork meat. I have some bacon. We're going to make a bit of a luxury version of this. We're going to add thyme. We're going to chop up some garlic. Already chopped up some onions and some carrots. Give that a good mix. Then we roll out the dough, fold the pasties, and then go to the combi, because the combi is the best machine to make a pasty in.
Interesting. Well, it's something that I think in this area, people being able to utilize a local recipe that's been around for years and years and years in the Henny Penny Combi, and being able to show them the differences between how it can be made in a conventional oven versus the Henny Penny Combi oven is really the difference maker.
Yeah, and the big trick behind this, of course, is the use of humidity. With the humidity setting, we can control the exact amount of moisture that's going to be evaporated from the product, and therefore can really control the way it bakes, the quality of the crust, and all those kind of things. So, we'll put all this in, add some parsley, we add some black pepper, give this a good mix, and I think our filling is pretty ready. So, I made some traditional pasty dough.
Okay.
Made this a few hours before. This has to rest in the fridge before you can roll it. We have a filling. I have a little bit of flour. I'm gonna use so the pasty doesn't stick to the table. We're gonna roll this. How big do these things normally are?
Normally, I would say, yes. Yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
Depends on what region of the state that you're in. I know I've had pasties from up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I've had them in Marquette area. They're going to be a little bit different than probably the pasties that you may have in Gaylord, where there's quite a few of them made. So different areas around the state do it a little differently. You'll find a lot of family traditions built into how the pasty's made, what goes into it. There's always the argument whether there's ketchup or gravy on your pasty. I know that's quite a big.
That's good to know.
That's a big deal with a lot of people. So inside these pasties there's onions, there's carrots, there's parsley, we have pork, we have bacon. Taking that type of product, putting it inside dough, inside of handmade dough, then putting it into the Henny Penny Combi. How does our combi differ from, say, a traditional oven or even some of our competitors?
With the combi, we can regulate humidity. And by having a higher humidity, there's two big advantages. By saturating the air around your product with humid air, you prevent a lot of evaporation, so your product stays juicier. And since humid air is a much denser medium than dry air, it can transport more energy, so we can even bake faster.
Time is money in a commercial kitchen, correct?
Yeah. It's very important, very important. And with the combis, we have the possibility, once we find out what the perfect program is, to store that in there, in its library. So no matter who's going to bake those pasties, you'll always have exactly the same end result, day in, day out. And that is something that's very important.
Now, is this just a butter-based liquid that you're putting on just to seal?
Just egg.
Just egg, okay.
Yeah, to make the dough stick.
Okay.
So we seal the pasty.
In our combi ovens, it's a lot different from some of our competitors. You can use a full-size sheet pan in our Series 1 combi ovens.
Exactly.
So that you get more product for the exact amount, same amount of time, which is going to increase profit margins because you're able to cook more in a shorter time.
In the same time with almost the same amount of energy. All other brands work with what we call a ventilated door system.
Right.
2 panels of glass, open in the middle. The heat escapes on the top side of the door, but goes into the ventilation system. With our combi, we have a completely sealed door, so we keep the energy exactly where we need it, and that's in the oven chamber itself. And with that, we save 28% energy in comparison to a ventilated door system.
Right. We have a probe inside the cabinet that takes a reading at 4 different locations along that probe during a cooking cycle.
Yes,
and it's something we can access while the unit is in process of cooking. Would you ever use something like this and do a probed cook on it due to the fact that there's a meat inside, or are we going to go just time and temperature based?
No, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. This is the first time I'm cooking this, so I want to make sure that the meat has the proper core temperature. Yep. So I'm going to use that core probe.
So the nice thing too about these units is, as we'll learn in a bit, is the fact that no matter what you're cooking or what you're doing, we can cater a recipe saved in the unit to your specifications.
What I always advise people is, when it comes to baking, like these kind of traditional things, is try to think not traditional. And normally, like I said before, you would put this in a convection oven, but what we're going to do is 80% of the baking time, we're going to bake this in a 90% humidity combi steam mode. And then in the last 20% of the baking time, we're going to use convection air to crisp up the dough and create this nice color. So Aaron, we're at the combi, and you can see we have 2 possibilities. Working in a manual way, and we can create programs here that we can store into our library called AutoChef. So I'm gonna write a little program, and I do that by just starting with the first step. We said we're gonna work in combi steaming, so I go for manual, touch the combi steamer mode, and we're going to work on a temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And the first step is not going to be on time, this is going to be on core probe, to be sure that we cook that meat inside till a certain point, and from there we only need browning, so then we can switch to convection air. Okay.
So we'll remove the moisture at that last step in order to get that nice brown look to the
So we'll end up with a juicy filling and a crispy
exterior.
That's what we want.
Outstanding.
So we'll switch here to core probe. We'll cook it to a core of 150, which is of course not the end temperature, but this is the point where we can switch. We use 90% humidity and the maximum airspeed, which guarantees us that we have a nice even cooking throughout the whole oven chamber. So this is the first step. I want to add a second step. I can scroll up and say add a step to the right, and choose from my menu here the convection mode. A bit more convincing. 356, that's about it. And here I'm gonna bake it another 8 minutes. But now I'm gonna reduce that humidity to crisp up that dough. And we're gonna bake this at 30%. So this is my program. Here you can see we have a 2-step program. We can do a maximum of 20.
Okay.
Not really necessary for this program, of course, but I want to store this. I go to the green lip here, say store, and then give the program a name. Pasty. I have to store it in a category. We'll do that in the baking category, of course, a subcategory, savory products. I can add an image, which I don't have right now. We'll wait till it's ready. We'll make a picture of the product and then add that to the program, so it's easy recognizable, and that makes the combi steamer easier to operate.
Right.
And I want to add this to my favorite list, so that's a kind of short list, so I can find this program very easily. So if I go back now we switch to the AutoChef. Here we have our favorite list. I know it's one without the picture yet, so I select it here. It's in my library now. The only thing I need to do now is push start, and we'll see now in the screen that it's not going to heat up to 350, which I programmed, but 369. That's 15% higher than my starting temperature, because When I'm going to load afterwards, I open the door, the hot air will
Lose some
escape.
of the heat. Yep.
But by overheating all the stainless steel inside, I get a heat radiation when I close the door after loading and start at approximately the right temperature. The only thing I need to do is wait for the signal, open the door, put the pasties in, close the door, don't push any button, done. We just heard the signal that the oven is preheated, the thermometer turned green. That means we can load the oven. The only thing I need to do is open the door, put in the pasties, and our first step is with the core probe. So I need to put that core probe in, and even the oven is going to remind me if I really put it in. So I acknowledge that, and we're good to go. The signal that our pasties are ready, when I open the door, it'll stop calling me. I'll take out the core probe. We'll take out the pasties.
Wow.
And look at that nice and even cook. Here we have our pasty, nice even golden color. And here if you look inside,
wow,
nice juicy meat. You can smell the garlic,
yeah,
and the parsley, the vegetables in there. That's a real nice end result.
Oh, Chef Frank, that's great. Thank you so very much. I'd like to thank all the Michigan foodies out there for tuning in today to our show. I'd also like to thank Chef Frank Honings from Europe, taking time out of his busy schedule.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Also like to invite you to go to our website. All the information on our website, my email address is going to be in the description below. Also keep in mind, we have this Henny Penny Test Kitchen here in Michigan to be utilized by any customer at any time. So contact us with any way, shape, or form that we can help you out. Till next time, have a good day.